let's take a look at a couple examples where we're trying to find the slope using a graph. Well, just like when we're using the equation to find slope, you needed 2 points to find the slope. You are going to do the same thing here when you're using a graph. So you'll start out and you'll pick any 2 points on your picture. So I'm going to pick these two. But when we're using a picture, we're going to use the formula for slope that is rise over run. Rise over run. That's a little bit more visual, which is great because we've got a picture. So you can do this one of two ways. It doesn't matter which point you start at. I always start with the one that's on the left, but it technically doesn't matter. So you start at 1 point and you say, how do I get from 1 point to the other? So you do your rise first. So let's talk about our rise, which means how much we're either going up or down from 1 point to the next. Well, if we start at this first point, we're on the left, we're going to go up 1, 2. We're going to go up 1, 2 to get to the second point. We're going to go up 2 units. Because we're going up, that means our rise will be a positive 2 on top. Let's see about our run. Our run is asking how much we're going to go left and right. From where we're at right now, though. Well, we're going to go to the right 1. So that means our run is going to be 1. The reason why it's a positive 1 is because we're going to the right, not the left. So now we just have to simplify it. Our slope is 2 over 1. That does divide. Well, 2 divided by 1 is just 2. So our slope for this picture is 2 for that line. Now, just to show you, you could have done it the other way around, still doing rise over run, and you'll get the same answer with the same exact points, just working the other way around. So let's talk about the rise again, and we'll just do this another way just to show you it's the same. Had I started with the other point first, my second point first, to get to the first point, I would have actually gone down 2 first, which meant the rise would have been negative 2. And then I would go, instead of right, I'd be going left to get my run. So my run, if I do it this way, would be a run to the left of 1. Again, because we're going left this time, it would be a negative 1 as our run. Well, negative divided by a negative is a positive. So we'd end up with a positive. Well, 2 divided by 1 is still just 2. So it really doesn't matter which way you go with your points. As long as you know which directions are positive and which directions are negative, you still get the same value. And it would have worked the same way had we used these 2 points as well. It doesn't matter. We would have just gotten a bigger number that would still be a fraction, so it would reduce, and it would still get you the answer 2. Let's look at another one. Let's look at this next one. They only labeled 2 points for us, which will make our lives a little bit easier at least. So let's use those 2 points. And again, if we were trying to find the slope, the easiest way if we have a picture is to look at it as rise over run. Well, let's start with the rise first, because that's what's on top. Well, the rise says working from 1 point to the other, how am I going to get there? I'm going to start with the one on the left and work my way there, so I'm going to have to go down to get to the other point. I'm going to go down 2, which means my rise is negative 2 because it's going down. Okay, now let's work on my run. My run is how much I'm going left and right to get to the point from here, from where I'm at. Well, I'm going to be going from negative 6 all the way over here to 0, so that's a run of 6. Now I'm going to the right, so that's a positive 6 for my run. Notice I'm getting a fraction for my slope. I'm getting -2/6, which does reduce. So I've got -+6 for my slope. That does reduce because both are divisible by 2. So let's reduce it. And that will get us a final answer for our slope of -1/3. Now, just like before, you could have done the reverse order, starting at the second point, working your way to the left, and you would still get a -1/3, because doing it the other direction, your rise would be positive, but your run would be negative. And still, a positive divided by a negative would still give you a negative. So it really doesn't matter which direction you move in. Look at these last two, in C and D. Notice that we have what? We have our special cases for lines. You still need to take a look at 2 points. They've only got one labeled. You can label one yourself, though. So let's take a look at C. We'll label 2 points here. We're still going to do it the same way. Because we have a picture, we'll think of the slope as rise over run. So let's see. Let's talk about our rise on this first one. Well, our rise means how much am I going to go up or down to get from one point to the next. Well, notice the points are horizontal. They're next to each other. So we're not going to go up or down at all. So that rise would be 0. However, let's look at the run. The run between the 2 points I picked, and it could have been different with the ones you picked, it would be fine though, is that we're going to the right 2, which is a +2. Okay, so the question is, what happens when I have 0 divided by 2? Well, 0 divided by anything is always going to be 0. So that means I actually do have a slope, and the slope is the number 0. It doesn't mean that there's no slope. It means that the slope is 0. So what does that mean about horizontal lines? It means that horizontal lines will always have a slope equal to 0. Because their rise is 0, because it's not going to go up and it's not going to go down. And then 0 divided by anything will always give you 0. Now let's take a look at D. We're going to do the same little trick. Notice this is our other special case. They only gave us 1 point here. Let's go ahead and pick out another one. And again, we'll use our slope as rise over run. Notice it's a little bit different this time. I do have a rise on this. So the rise between my 2 points is that I'm going up 2. So that's a rise of +2. Let's take a look at my run. My run is how much am I going left or right? Well, I'm not going left or right at all. So that would put a 0 on the bottom. Now, this one's tricky. If you type in 2 divided by 0 into your calculator, I'll actually say the word error. The reason being is you can't divide by 0. There's a fancy word for something when we divide by 0. It's called undefined. So, what we have here is that our slope really doesn't exist. It's undefined. It can't be measured. And if you think about this, slope is measuring steepness. You really can't measure steepness if something is going up and down forever. How do you measure that? So that's why we give this fancy answer of the slope is undefined. And this will be our answer every time that we have a line like this. When we have a vertical line, we'll always have a undefined slope. So moving along, let's talk about